Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Petty Cash Podcast. I am your host for this episode. My name is Vincent, aka VCG Cosplay. Today, as always, I am joined by my fellow co-hosts, Charles, Joseph, and Danny. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Yo!
Of course, you pull off an ego.
Yo!
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to another episode of the Petty Cash Podcast. Thanks for hosting this week, Vinny.
Anytime. As always, we're here to talk about anything pop culture, nerdy, or in our personal lives. So I guess, speaking of personal lives, let's talk about pretty much ourselves. Danny, why don't you start us off?
All right, well, nothing really exciting happened today before we all jumped on recording. I did some Comic-Con stuff in preparation for Phoenix Fan Fusion as of recording next weekend. Other than that, I just chilled and jumped on the PS5 for a little bit, and now we're here recording our amazing podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
This is Joseph here. Last Thursday, Charles and I, we went to Majestic Phoenix, where Cinematary presented Joe Bob Briggs, How Rednecks Saved Hollywood, and boy, what an informative screening that was. So definitely, if you don't know who Joe Bob Briggs is, he's a horror movie host, and honestly, like, this guy is like no bullshit, balls to the wall, like one of the best horror movie critics out there. Definitely, if you don't know Joe Bob Briggs of Shudder's Last Drive-In, of TBS's Monster Vision, definitely give that one a look. Of course, this morning I did some training, got through a fucking 2.5 hour oil change over at Tempe Honda.
Oh my God.
So I was about to pass out over there. So this is why I'm kind of like this right now. And also, I just can't get the thing out of my head. But I can't wait for Star Wars Celebration.
You lucky bastard.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I mean, Joe pretty much covered Star Wars Celebration and Joe Bob Briggs. But, yeah, for me, it was just, going over some stuff, kind of some last-minute things for Star Wars Celebration, and just watching Critical Role, trying to get caught up on the years of content that they've put out. And just kind of chilling, because after yesterday's exercise, I was like, I'm still a little sore. And I just wanted to go on record for this. These should be released in the order that we've done them in, but I just want to go on record for the last episode that I hosted. Thank you, Vinny, for messing up my jam there. I was going to have a certain order of introduction, and instead you just like took it over. You're like, oh yeah, and here's Danny and Joe, and I'm like, I was going to do that. Did I do that? Yeah, you kind of took it over. I was going to do an individual, but it's all good, man. I'm just giving you a hard time. Exactly. You've ruined it forever.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. I am your host, Charles, and I am joined by my co-host, Vinny.
Hey, howdy, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Petty Cash Podcast. Thank you, Charles, for giving me that introduction. I'm also joined by our fellow hosts, Danny and Joe. Danny, why don't you take the floor?
Exactly.
I'm autistic. What can I say?
I know where you live, and I will get you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm surprised he didn't go, you took over my introduction. That's a peddling.
I don't want to wear that character out.
You can never wear that out. It's too good. So I guess for me, we did quite a bit. We went to Zia Records a couple of times where I picked up a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge R2 unit for $20, which was a huge mind-blowing experience for me. And this droid was completely decked out with a personality chip and everything, so that was pretty cool to find. And then a few days ago, we went to have dinner with a friend of ours at a pizza place called The Devils, and we went to go... I'm sorry, what? Red Devils, thank you. Sorry, my bad. And we also went to the iconic Circle K, where the infamous Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was filmed. Infamous? Yeah, infamous. Infamous, seriously. But yeah, other than that, we're just getting ready for Comic-Con next week. Joe and Charles are heading out to Star Wars Celebration. God, I'm following my words here. My bad. But they're going to Star Wars Celebration. You damn bastards. I wish I could go.
And the ninth Doctor just canceled for PFF.
Anyways, to get back on track, these two are going to Star Wars Celebration. Danny and I are going and working at Phoenix Fan Fusion next weekend. So if you guys are going to Phoenix Fan Fusion, hopefully we'll see you there. Now, the topic for today, I actually there was a couple of topics that went through my mind, but I decided since we're all a bunch of nerdy collectors, I thought the best topic to talk about today is toys. Being a toy collector and pretty much going through probably the best evolution of toy factors through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today. Being a toy collector, we have seen pretty much a huge static of the evolution when it comes to toy collecting. So I thought that would be an interesting topic to talk about. So starting off this topic, I guess I want to talk about the 80s nostalgia of toys, because toys back then were specifically driven to be a toy made for the market, and then they made a TV show based on those toys. And we can all pretty much confirm that a lot of properties were done with that. We've seen Aliens, we've seen Transformers, He-Man, you name it. Just pretty much every toy that people grew up in the 80s pop culture genre were made specifically to sell, like sell. And it's just fascinating to me how we grew up knowing them as kids, and then we pretty much grew up through the 90s. I want to say I was a 90s kid, born in 89, and I loved Batman. I loved Batman, Ninja Turtles, and a couple other things like through Disney and Pixar, and they were really focused on let's make the show, then make the toys based on the show. So in the 90s, it was a whole different polarity on that idea so that they can sell the product.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because with me, as much as I hate to admit it, I was more of an 80s kid. I was born in 84, so yeah, I grew up in the era of all this. And yeah, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the cartoon, and basically any character that showed up on the cartoon became a toy. And even then, they brought out toys that, they were just like, oh, hey, what if we made the Ninja Turtles samurais? What if we made the Turtles Transformers? What if we made it to where, you could transform them from like looking like little baby turtles to the characters and love, today and all that. And then like other things like, actually I think this might have been late 80s or maybe it was early 90s, like Darkwing Duck, and I know Swamp Thing was another popular one. I had a bunch of Swamp Thing toys. Those were so much fun to play with. And let's see here. Well, I mean, if we're still talking about the 80s, let's see here. And even with video games too. Like they would have video game toys as well. Because like I know I had some Super Mario Brothers toys and things like that. So yeah, they definitely were trying to get into the parents' wallets for sure, with all the toys, because I mean, we know that's where the money was coming from.
One of my favorite things about that is actually completely true, because if you watch the Netflix series Toys That Made Us, the episode about He-Man, they actually do admit that their idea was just to get into the parents' wallets and make those kids beg for those toys. And one of the co-creators actually said he saw at a Toys R Us a kid throwing a fit on the floor, screaming, demanding that he wanted the He-Man toys, but his mom kept saying no, so he threw a fit. And then she ended up walking away with the entire inventory. Like, she bought the castle and the figures because she just couldn't get her kid to behave. And he was just like, cha-ching. Yeah.
If I had pulled that, my parents would have dragged me out of the store and reprimanded me to no end. I would not have gotten a toy for months.
Oh, I know. Like, that was the thing. Like, growing up as kids from our generation, we learned very quickly that if you behave, you can get something out of it. If you throw a fit, they're taking you to the back of the store and smacking you with their slippers, and then you're going home into your room. Like, that was just the way it was. You misbehave, you get the slap on the stick. You behave, you get the toy you always wanted. So that was just pretty much the golden rule.
Misbehave in a store. Oh, you can bet that's a
Fiddling.
Good call. And yeah, no, I really wanted your opinion on that, Charles, because you did grow up with the most iconic toys when you were a kid. So, you know, I really can't imagine what that was like, seeing those toys for the first time on the shelf, and you're just like, what is this? Like, what is this cool item? I must have it.
Oh my gosh. It was actually quite amazing. And you guys could probably imagine, because Toys R Us was still around, at least for up until, what was it, like the 2010s or something like that. Or when did Toys R Us finally shut down? Does anyone remember?
I want to say that was like
4 years ago?
I know it was recent that they shut. Even they like filed for bankruptcy. I want to say in like 2018 or 2019, but they've
2018.
It was June 2018. Okay, thank you. But they have technically started to slowly come back. Like now they're a part of like Macy's and like little department stores and stuff like that. Instead of being like a full like toy store again.
And some stores up in Canada still have Toys R Us stores over there. Friggin' lucky bastards. I'll say with Toys R Us, I think there's some sort of a resurgence, just not as big as it used to be anymore. And yeah, there's so many department stores like Walmart, Target. They're pretty much filling up all the little end caps and aisles with, you know, NECA figures and everything you name. I would say back then there was Toys R Us and there was KB Toys. That was a big one.
I worked there.
Yeah. And usually grocery stores, for me, it was Cars. Cars and Fred Meyer's were the places that sometimes I would go to for toys. And for me, it was mostly Power Rangers, the old G.I. Joes, Star Wars, the Power of the Force lineup. Those are the ones that I truly remembered. And of course, like the Batman 1989 with Batman Returns. And of course, like I do remember like almost getting a whole lineup of the Batman Forever figures. I'll never forget this one night. My dad came home. And it was very fucking late. It was like a 9-10 p.m. He just got home from work, but he brings out this box, and he comes in through the front door, and he's like, "Hey Joseph, hey Chris, you know, I got a gift and all that." Kind of slams the box down, and all of a sudden it wasn't even like gift wrapped or anything. It was like a shit ton of like real Ghostbusters toys. Oh, dude. And they were like in the boxes and everything. Of course, we all fucking opened it, and and just remember playing it like crazy and trying to reenact like the movies and the cartoon shows. But that was probably one of my best childhoods from the early '90s and mid '90s and so on and so forth. Now it's just me collecting NECA figures usually. I mean, goddamn company.
Oh, NECA. NECA really just knows how to take nerds' money. It's like, oh, here's a new Jaws figure. Oh, here's a new Friday the 13th figure. Oh, here's a new Godzilla figure. Like, can you help for like 2 months, please? I need to catch up financially from this. But being a late 90s kid, born in 1996, I was mainly like, I had the tail end of like 90s toys and like grew up in the early 2000s getting like those like Hot Wheels. I had a small phase where I enjoyed Hot Wheels toys. I remember one specific Christmas I had this giant T-Rex Hot Wheels like track where it was a T-Rex hollowed out with like Hot Wheels tracks going up through him, and you could shoot the car out of his mouth. That thing was really cool. But of course, growing up in the early 2000s, that was still around. You guys both here and in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say that was still back when Bandai America was still like a big thing in the early 2000s, but I still remember growing up every Christmas and birthday every now and then I would get those Bandai America Godzilla figures. That's my bread and butter, is Godzilla memorabilia of any of all time. The DVDs, the video games, the toys, the collectibles for adults, especially nowadays for me. I still have most of my Godzilla action figure collection from the Bandai line. I remember having the Final Wars stuff, like some of the Showa and Heisei era toys, some of the Millennium figures. Yeah. my closet still has a box full of all those old figures, while my shelves in my room continue to collect the new era of action figures between SH Monster Arts, X Plus Toys, NECA figures, etc.
I will say throughout the 90s, no one could reach the height and popularity of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers lineup. Like, everyone was fighting over the Green Ranger because he had the little golden, shield, shoulder plate and everything. And sometimes it was nice to, like, take it off and everything, put it on the others and shit. I think one of the coolest features of those toys was that, you could flip their heads to their human faces and then, like, press their belt and then it just flips onto their helmets and shit.
That was really nice.
They remade those, actually.
They did. And I was just like, where the hell? And they look better now. And I was like, where the hell was this when I was a kid? Yeah, no, I think I stopped right around the Zeo lineup. And I think my little brother, he got into the Turbo lineup and just played with my toys. But yeah, it was just all the Zords. Well, the Zords were barely what I got and all, but it would always be my cousins. They would get it, and we would just bring our toys together and just, fucking go AWOL on them. But I like to bring up Star Wars Episode 1. When those toys started to hit the shelves, God, it was ridiculous. Like, of course, we all came from the Shadows of the Empire. Just prior to that, the re-release of the 1997 Star Wars movies, and they started, like, showing... I just remember one of the Power of the Force lineup, they had, this was before, and then this was after, and everything, and it showed, like, young Anakin turning into old Anakin before there was a Hayden Christensen. And so I remember Darth Maul was one of the most sought after figures of that time, because it was a double-bladed lightsaber. No one's seen Episode 1. They've all went to Star Trek First Contact just to see that first trailer, that first teaser trailer of Phantom Menace. But yeah, so I used to be one of those kids. I bought the bought Jar Jar, bought Queen Amidala. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were probably two best figures to fucking own, just because it was like, oh shit, it's Jedis and all that finally. Of course, they didn't find, like, Darth Maul until, like, a month or two after, Episode 1 was released.
So for me, it was actually Toy Story back in the day. Like, because I grew up on Transformers and things like that, but that wasn't until, like, later on in my life. In my early days, it was all about Disney with my family, and then when Toy Story came out, that's where it really cemented my love for these characters. And I remember Christmas, I got pretty much everything I could ever ask for Christmas, but then one of the toys broke down. And my mom takes me to go to Walmart, and we were trying to get the Buzz Lightyear doll. Now, back then in 1995, everybody knows this, retailers didn't order enough of these dolls to meet the demand because it was such a popular movie. Like, this was the biggest thing in 1995. And unfortunately, we couldn't get it because, again, Walmart sold out. So my mom asked me, well, she said she was sorry, what else do you want to get? But I just told her I wanted to get the Sheriff Woody doll because he was my favorite character out of the entire movie. Now, the funny thing about this joke that's coming up, I would run around the stores saying I got my Woody.
Oh, no.
Like little 5-year-old me with autism was running around going, I got my Woody. And they're like, what? So then as soon as they see the doll, they're like, oh, Sheriff Woody. I got it, okay.
I just want to point this out, Vinny. It's been 3 episodes and you're still talking about Toy Story.
Give me a break, man. It's iconic as hell.
All right. So I'm going to briefly take it back to the 80s just for a moment before I get into the 90s and my experience with it. But in the 80s, it was such a... Like, going into Toys R Us was such an experience. Like, I remember, going in and you would... They didn't have it so much in the later years, but when you would go in, at least to when back in the 80s, maybe early 90s, there was always that iconic stale popcorn butter smell when you went in the door. I don't know, like, I think they had, like, they sold popcorn at the front there, or at least the Toys R Us where I grew up. And and then you'd go in there and, they had just aisles and aisles of toys. And then even to get, like, video games, They used to do paper slips. Yes, you would go and you'd be like, okay, if they had the game you wanted, you pull out a paper slip, you take it to the front register, they would, stamp it and staple the receipt to it, and then you would go to this little, like, it was like an electronics area / like this cubicle thing that they had set up in the corner, and you would hand the guy or girl or whatever your receipt, and then they'd go into the behind there and look, and you could just like peek around the corner and see like rows and rows of like video game boxes and stuff like that. It was so cool, and like I remember the evolution of the toy section and even the video game section in like Walmart. Used to be the video game section at Walmart was just an end cap. That was it. And the toy section was like maybe an aisle and a half maybe. And then as I got older, the toy section expanded, the electronics section or end cap became an actual aisle, and that was oh my gosh, we're moving up now. But then then you go into the 90s, and like you said, Power Rangers. And I remember it was a family friend that actually lived here in Arizona, and she sent a couple of VHS tapes of the Power Rangers, and I hadn't really heard of them because like we just had over the air channels. We didn't have cable, and I remember I watched it and I was hooked. I was like, I need Power Ranger toys. I need all that stuff. And I remember how difficult it was to find some of those because like you said, Joe, people were ravenous for those dang toys. I remember I went to it was KB Toys, and it was in this mall in Texas, and there was a line out the freaking door, and they destroyed like you know those little wire basket things where sometimes they'll put like balls or other things in. They had that full of the 12-inch figures. Those ones that were kind of in those triangular shaped boxes.
I had those.
And they destroyed those. And when I finally got in the store, I was like, oh man, all they've got is the Yellow Ranger, the Pink Ranger, a couple of the Black Rangers. And I was like, and I was like, oh man, I was wanting the Red Ranger. And I'm digging through the box. I found one at the very bottom of the bin.
Of course you did.
And people were coming up to be like, can I buy that from you? Can I buy that from you? And I was just like, no, this is mine.
Real quick to share with you on that topic, Power Rangers really was a huge deal in my house as well. Like, I was always the Black Ranger. Our neighbor Joaquin was the Red Ranger. My cousin Shane was blue, and my sisters were pink and yellow. So we literally had the entire team when it came to like a united like family front of Power Rangers. And of course, I had the poster. I had the 5 Rangers as like the 12-inch figures. The one thing I always wanted from that was the Megazord. That was the one thing I could never get my hands on. Now, of course, I had the remote control version, but that one was really cool to me. Like that one I hold near and dear to my heart because like that cemented my love and passion for giant mech robots. Like that was just so cool to see. Like I love the transformation sequence. I love the Black Ranger. Power Rangers, I can speak for all of us, just really cemented our love and passion for it.
Yeah, actually, I remember with mine when I was trying to get a hold of the Megazord. I think it was like my mom ended up calling around to several stores, and finally, like she found one it was like some Kmart store, and it was like some quite a ways away, and they ended up holding it for us. So that we could drive down there and get it, and I was so stoked. I played with that thing for like forever, and I wish I'd have kept it because around that time was when I started getting a little more careful with my toys, and so like it still would have been in excellent shape if I'd kept it.
Yeah.
But I think like true like collecting really came about when I got into the Beetleborgs. And and that's when I actually like started displaying the figures. Because I remember the house that we lived in Texas, I had a built-in bookshelf in my room, and I started displaying like the characters, and the vehicles and stuff. And I think that was like when I started, collecting, and yeah, I'd still take them out of the package, but then I started displaying them, and that was kind of the start. And all went downhill from there. No, I'm kidding.
One of my favorite toys to collect was actually Robocop.
Yeah.
Dude, every time like you press like the little button on his chest and everything, it has like a little machine gun sound, and his like visor was red. I always had a problem with it. I'm like, I'm gonna blacken this thing. Yeah. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't. I mean, that was actually like one of the toys like I would display. There was a moment of like when they released it during Robocop 3, and I always hated. Like, you could change the arm, which was neat, and it had his little Auto 9 and everything, but the only thing that really pissed me off was his crotch area and his legs. They were kind of like V, so whenever you move the legs, it's just like him doing like this weird little kick. Yeah. I was like, God damn it, what the hell is wrong with this thing? And so I always kept him in like a fixed position, and then it's funny, years later when McFarlane, and I still display it to this day. Thanks, Vinny, for almost breaking the arm. But
sorry.
Yeah.
I offered to fix it.
No, I got it fixed. But yeah, no. One of my favorite ones was McFarlane. I think they still created the best looking one to me. But sorry, NECA. But yeah, I still hold that RoboCop pose with his hands up and everything, and the gun. Yeah, NECA released quite a few of them. They released part 1. They came out with a variant of the battle damaged one at the very end of the movie. There was like a tint blue for the second one, but they kind of mixed it in like part 2 and 3, where you had the jetpack and the gun and everything. They were just like, fuck it, just release it. That's a RoboCop 2 and 3 figure. And what's great about NECA was they added a feature where you could actually open the legs, where he could put his gun in and close, which was awesome, which is very cool. They did the Robocop versus Terminator from the comic book and video games. Those are actually cool. Some of the designs kind of fucking weird. I was like, just keep them the way they are and all. I don't know. Yeah, as soon as my older brother, and this is like transition that I came from like kids' toys, to like detailed figures and everything. As soon as my older brother collected the Movie Maniacs line from McFarlane, as those figures, I mean, they didn't exactly age well, because if you look at those toys going to Collector's Marketplace, they're always like fixed in this pose, in this position. You can't really change it, but kid of imagination, when you just open up an Army of Darkness toy with Ash, and you're like, fuck it, I don't care, just, that's Ash, an Ash toy, finally. No, that was really fun. I noticed, though, with, like, rated R movies of the 80s, they made, like, action figures.
Yeah. The Aliens, for example? Like
Aliens, I do remember. Yeah. And I love what NECA did when they you know what, let's just detail those figures and, re-release them. And I love the old Kenner-style looking ones, and, God, if it wasn't so expensive, but the Alien vs. Predator lineup, they did ones from like the video game, the Dark Horse comics. Those were, I mean, such childhood memories, and still collecting to this day. One of the recent memories is some of those toys. Would you guys ever let go of those toys? Not let go, like, I mean, is there guys' like rooms just cluttered with so many collectibles that you're like, it's time for these to go?
You know the answer for me already, Joe. You already know that answer.
Damn Funko Pop. Tell us.
Okay, we'll get to Funko Pops in a bit, but
no.
but with like all my like childhood toys that I still have, like I still I don't have everything from like my childhood. Like I know I had like Spider-Man action figures. I had like a couple other like dinosaur and Godzilla toys that are missing from what I have currently. But from what I have remaining from my childhood, I'm like, it would be hard to either like sell that or like to like donate that somewhere, because like there's still like sentimental value to like these were my toys when I was a kid. Now granted, if and when I have kids in the future, I would much rather like pass these down to my kid. Like, hey, these were the toys that I grew up with. Maybe you'll like them as much as I did back when I was your age. Like, I feel like that's like one of like the best things about toys. Like, hey, what?
I could just picture. Do you guys remember that commercial where there's this guy and he's like, he wakes up in the morning and he gets his coffee, a Sideshow Collectibles commercial, and he's like drinking his coffee and he looks out and he sees his little son playing in the sandbox with his, these action figures, and then he like turns and looks at his collectibles. He brought out the picture, and there's, his collectibles, shelving, and it's empty. Like all the shelves are empty, the stands are empty, and everything like that. And then he looks back and realizes that all those are in that sandbox, and the kid is playing with them. And he's like, no, and he drops his coffee. I can just picture that will be you, Danny.
Okay, I said toys, not collectibles I would give to my kid. Like, for example, like my Bandai, like, Godzilla toys. I would gladly give those to my kid because, like, there's, like, scuffs and whatnot, and, like, there's some paint missing. I would never sell those. Those would not be sold, but those would be, like, enjoyed by my future son or daughter. Now, my collectibles, my Monster Arts, my NECAs, my pop figures, those are not to be touched by my future children.
That's if you still have them and you weren't forced to sell them. Nah, I mean, there's some toys where you're just like, hold on, let me look at eBay first. Ah, shit, never mind. You can open up this one. No. If there's something that's not going to easily break and all, like, look, kids, have at it and all that. But I still have this toy in this box. I don't know fucking why. It's the character, Matt LeBlanc's character from Lost in Space, the Major. And, God, dude, I remember that fucking toy. It was basically, if you guys seen Lost in Space, on with Gary Oldman and William Hurt, may he rest in peace. It had, like, the B9 robot and everything. It was a silly flick anyway. But, like, that's the one I would probably, when kids and all that, here you go. You could just open this sucker. I think that's the only toys that I know that I'm just like, I can care a little for this. But, God, I recently moved, and holy crap, the boxes that I had, there was just a time where I was just like, this would suck moving this crap again. There's a time for this stuff where it's just like, you know what? Toy hunting is like a drug almost.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Like, the difference with, like, you order online, it's great, it's like, okay, I got my figure, it's just a matter of waiting, and hopefully it arrives, and not left in the open, but it's the joy of finding it at a toy hunt when you go to the aisle and it's right there. Yeah. And that's like Star Wars Black Series when they did, like, the Force Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
And there was, like, a scuffle and everything like that. Everyone, was, the toy hunts for Star Wars, again, nah, like, it's such a bad drug. Like, there's the joy of it, and, like, the only cure of it, I would just say, is this, like, wait a second. I have to think about this really, really fucking hard now. Am I going to be buried with these things?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, toy collecting is absolutely just, like, once you start, it's really hard to get out of it. Like, I'll admit, like, I collect stuff, like, I collect figures and, like, collectibles, but I still remember, like, those Force Fridays back when the Disney Star Wars trilogy was just starting. I remember the last one, I think it was called Triple Force Friday, and at the Target that was by my parents' house, they were getting they got in a shipment of the carbonized Mandalorian figures back when the Mandalorian was just starting. So I woke up early to go get that, but when I woke up early, my dad also woke up at the same time. He's like, hey, you want to go get breakfast? Like, okay, I still have like 2 hours before I need to be there. I think I can swing that. So we get breakfast, we get home, then I I go off to the Target, and it's like 10-15 minutes before it opens. There's a line wrapped around the corner of the building. Like, oh, I'm not getting that figure.
I like to add, one of those Force Fridays, I was with my older brother. We went to the Walmart over by Chandler Fashion Mall. There was already a line, and they put it in the little, like, it was like starting at the garden area, but it was backed up all the way to like electronics. So of course the Mando figures were coming out and everything. Everyone needed, the IG-11, just whoever, and we were over there, and I don't know, we were like probably the 25th, group in line, and it was just like, when do we have to stay here? Like a couple, till midnight or something, or 10 o'clock. I remember getting so frustrated. But I'm just gonna say, like, I know that guy with those 2 cards is gonna ransack the entire line. Scalpers, the biggest enemy of toy hunting, and so. Just to, conclude, I remember, like, one of the sought-after toys was a carbonized Mando from Target. Yeah. I remember, like, I felt like Clarence Bodiger when he had, like, the little tracker from Robocop. And so I'm looking, and I find the toys were just released. He's in the steel mill. But no, I clicked on the figure, bought. My older brother and I, we looked at each other. We bought the toys that we needed, and we looked at all the people in line, and be like, "Well, our job's done." And so we walked out. We were done, and all the people were just like, "Oh, son of a!" And they pulled out their phones and started trying to order online. Oh, that was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, again, that carbonized the carbonized figures for the Black Series are just so cool. Now, like I said earlier, I unfortunately could not get mine, but it was because of my guy Charles right here, I was able to get that figure. Charles, why don't you share that story real quick?
Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. So yeah, it was like late evening, if I recall, and I ended up at Target, and we're trying to find that. We're trying to find that carbonized Mando, but of course it was freaking gone everywhere. And I'm walking in there. I'm trying to remember what it was I went in there for specifically, but it's like, what? Let me just pop by the toy section and see. And I roll in there, and what do I happen to find? 2 of the freaking carbonized Mandos, not on the pegs, just sitting there. Like somebody had taken them off the shelf, or I don't know what happened, and they just laid them on the shelf, and they were just there. I'm like, what? And I pick up the first, and I'm like, oh wow, this is it. Wait, there's another one. And so then I message, is like, hey, does anybody need this? And Danny's like, me. So I was like, okay, I'll just, yeah. And I still got the darn thing. It's just like, yeah, it was such a crazy thing. But anyway, you've been biting at the bit, Vinny. What you got?
Sorry. Yeah, no, because related to all your guys' topics, it really does boil down to toy collecting, the hoarders, and just the nitpicks of here and there. And so for starters, I guess I should say, when it comes to collecting toys, where does the line draw? What can you get rid of? What can you sacrifice? And that's why I find it so unique in today's generation, where the guys that grew up with those toys are now working in the industry, recreating them so that the parents who grew up with it can now buy them off the pegs of the shelves and let their kids play with them. They can have the same exact experience and share that bondage of it. And then going on to, collecting, the waiting in line for just that one exclusive action figure. And of course, the freaking price gougers. I hate you people to no end. All we want to do is just own one for our own collection, but then you buy out the entire thing to triple price it for no reason other than to make your own profits, and no one's falling for it anymore. Get off the saddle. We are done trying to pay for secondhand to third-hand retail price. For the love of God. There's so many times where I really wish I could, if there's one collectible, or not even a collectible, one vintage toy I really wish I could get my hands on just to have in my collection, because recently with Ghostbusters coming back out, we had the Plasma series, the Fright features. One of the things I really want to have for my Ghostbuster figures is the Firehouse. But whether it be the Kenner classic one or even just a revamped one for the Fright feature figures, I would love to have that just for display purposes, because as a toy collector, one of my favorite things I love to do is repaints. I love giving rich paint details on figures and buildings and play sets, which is why recently, just as well, I got the Masters of the Universe Castle Grayskull that was recreated and sold on the market for the Motu toys. I love the way that's designed. I have never had a playset like that before, and just the way it looks, just even looking at it, it just has this beautiful physique of like a castle with the skull on it. And when you give that thing such beautiful details, it is just phenomenal to look at. And I've seen so many wonderful repaints. And then when it comes to Star Wars collecting, you know, I've collected a few toys here and there, but nothing too crazy other than just the Black Series helmets. The helmets and the lightsabers and the blasters are really my go-to because I love props so much. But when it comes to toys, as soon as I see a Star Wars toy, I'm just like, nope, that's my draw line. Like my cousins, I kid you not, my cousins and my uncle Rich, they were the huge Star Wars fanatics. They had so many Star Wars toys. They were like hoarders with Star Wars and G.I. Joe and you name it, all over the floor. And I love G.I. Joe. But they literally had the smorgasbord of it to where I could play with it and be satisfied, and my parents don't have to bust their wallets for it. My uncle had an old 50s Ford truck in the backyard. All original Star Wars toys, all out of the package, just lying in the back of this truck. And I'm looking in the window as a young collector going, why aren't these in cases? Why aren't they being displayed? He goes, I just don't have time for it, or I just don't know where to put them. I'm like, put them in a damn Tupperware. Even me being a Star Wars fan who doesn't collect the toys, I'm looking at those like, preserve them. Don't leave them out in the freaking Mother Nature to roast in 110 degrees of Arizona. Yeah. That drives me nuts.
All right. Well, actually, I got a couple of points. So one was a collecting story, and then the other one was the whole, being buried by collectibles sort of thing. So I'll go over both of them. So the first one was, it actually was one that happened to my parents. So back in the day, you guys may have heard of him, but Tickle Me Elmo, when that first came out.
Gosh.
Yes. Yeah. And around that time, there was also this Barbie doll it was Holiday Barbie, and that was a huge one as well amongst the Barbie collector community. So I remember my parents were going holiday shopping, and they ended up, I think we went out on Black Friday, and we decided to swing back by the Walmart where actually both of my folks worked at. And what ended up happening was I just stayed in the car, and they needed to run in and get something. When they went in, it was a madhouse because they had the Holiday Barbie, they had the Tickle Me Elmo, and they had a few other things, and it was insane. But what was funny is, so my parents go in, and then they come back out, and they're both laughing, and my dad is holding a Holiday Barbie, and I was like, Dad, what? Why do you have that? And he's like, okay, so we got in there, and they were trying to get in line for, it was something else, like completely unrelated, and they somehow the lines got mixed. And so my dad ended up getting pushed into the direction of where the Holiday Barbies were. Oh, no. And the employees, because, so many people, they're trying to get them through. Yeah. They literally just started shoving Holiday Barbies in people's hands and then shoving them out the door. Here's the thing. They sometimes got a little bit too aggressive with getting people out the door. So there was that little process of purchasing. They were literally shoving people out the door so freaking fast. And my dad is like, I didn't even want this. And before he knew it, he was shoved out the door with a free Barbie. And he's like, what do I do? Oh my God. Yeah, it was crazy. And then my mom ended up my mom, she ended up getting a Tickle Me Elmo shoved in her hands, but she managed to get out of there before they shoved her out the door, and she was like, I don't need this. And then there was a woman and her little daughter, and they weren't able to get a hold of one, and she's like, here, I got a hold of this. I didn't, here you go. You can purchase it. And they're like, oh, thank you. And, they were so happy. And so we're outside the store and we're just laughing. And this guy and his wife, they go running up and they look over and they see, my dad holding the holiday Barbie. And they're like, oh man, dude, they still got him? And I was like, my dad's like, I don't think so. They were getting down to the last ones. And they're like, oh, shoot, we missed out. And my dad's like, here. It's like, we don't need it. And here. They're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And, the wife was ecstatic. And she, started showing us pictures of their freaking, collection and everything. She was a huge Barbie collector. So, made her day. And it was just it was crazy, though. And, okay, so what you got, Vinny?
For one, that's amazing of your parents to just give those away. They pretty much became Santa Clauses to those people.
Pretty much.
But no, as soon as you mentioned the holiday Barbie and Tickle Me Elmo, I had a flashback to when I worked at KB Toys. That was one of my favorite jobs I had. KB Toys for 4 years. I was there for Transformers, Iron Man, Spider-Man 3, you name it. So all the cool toys during that era, I remember seeing. But that Tickle Me Elmo, oh my God, did we get a bunch of crazies coming at us for that toy. It was just stupidly popular. Even the Barbie itself was so ridiculously popular. People would just run up to us demanding that we have it. And we would tell them, sorry, we're out. And they would literally kind of get aggressive and violent with us saying, you're lying to me, you have it in the back.
I'm not leaving until I get it.
Yeah, and I look at them, I'm like, we're sorry. We do not have this. What more do you want from us? We just had it. People came in. It was bought. It's gone. Sorry. You're out of luck.
I just remember a Target Black Friday incident, and this is when it was my second job working at Target, and this was first Black Friday, and I remember we had to wake up, and it was 4:30, 5 in the morning, and you could just, actually the store was open. No, let me rephrase. No, it wasn't open. So they had us go all the way in the back. There was actually team members on each aisle. I got stuck with this this one area in the toy section, and I had to get houses and all that. Now, trying to carry those boxed houses sucked. Unless, I had someone from stockroom help out.
Those toy houses that were yay big?
Yeah, no, and they weren't the jumbo ones or anything, thank God. Oh, no, okay. Most of those were in the back.
Oh, okay.
But I think one of the, we all had our walkies and everything. Some team members, they didn't and everything. And so, we all kind of, all the coworkers that I had, we just kind of looked at each other and then all right, we're going to open the stores in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you could hear footsteps and all that. And everyone goes straight to either clothes, the electronics that we had in the main aisles, grabbing the doorbuster TVs, and the grandparents are just grabbing clothes and everything. But then here comes the parents and all that. So all of us that had ladders and everything, we're basically just perched just on top and just waiting for people. So you're just getting kind of look at all these people. But I kind of had a little flash in my head, and it was just kind of what the hell. And so, I need that box, I need that little place, Playmate box, housing and all that. As soon as I grabbed that, my flash, it was Dawn of the Dead almost, with a bunch of hands reaching for me, and it was holy shit. And it was I don't have any more, and everything. And so you're just almost about to be pulled down by these people who need that box. As soon as I got done with at least 7 of them on the top row, holy crap, do you have more in the back? Do you have more in the back? Thankfully, a couple, stockroom people, they had it on pallets, and that's all we had to do. Just freaking, get those things and wheel it out to the front. But it's just people. It was like a scourge almost, just taking everything. And, okay, we're all going to be guilty of this, and I know you current Target workers. There are some DVDs and video games that we stash on the side for us. It's no joke, yeah. All of them will have, like, little shelves. Here's a little Target secret. If there's a particular game you want, just ask the workers. It's in the drawer. You may be lucky enough to snag one, so there is no names. But, if you're lucky enough that there's the video game from whatever you want, it's probably hiding in there. So here's a little tip for this upcoming Black Friday. Fuck them. I don't work there anymore. So, it's funny. Even though I'm done working at Target, it's been a couple of years, and, I kind of, like I said, we still go toy hunting, and for those that have worked there, we all know what it's like coming back to a store. There's some people who have, like, PTSD from working retail. Sometimes you just know what the hell you're doing. And I thought what was really funny when, I'm going to say Walmart workers, you suck at trying to look for anything in the back. But I will say some Target workers are actually genuinely friendly. That, if at least you have the DPCI, you're not in a fucking hurry, you're not going to buy like a whole box and everything. You give them the DPCI. Hell, there was this one new worker that I knew who had no idea how to use a little handheld PDA device. I shouldn't have done it, but I took the gun, and it's still like all the memories, I had to like refresh myself, and and the person's like, holy shit, and then I'm just like, yep, here you go. So we have the Gilbert Southern store, we have the Power and 60 and the Power McKillop store. And so, yeah. And if like, oh, my gun's frozen, what do? Hold the power button, just hold the power button and everything like reboots and everything. So it's funny. I still have those Target members, but it makes it easier for me as a toy hunter. I know how it's like. One of the worst, not worst, but you would see them every opening at 8 in the morning are Hot Wheels collectors. Mm-hmm. They're not bad, but man, when they, when you have someone, on the end and they know when the Hot Wheels are coming, those suck the most. Let me look through that box, and they just go through everything and all, and it's just you can't stop it and all, and you see the same ones coming in, and just this is what they live for.
Like I remember like going to like some Targets and Walmart early in the morning to like try and get like an action figure, a Blu-ray, or a game like on launch day or before launch day. And you will see those guys like in the like waiting outside, and then sometimes like they'll be looking for what you're looking for. Sometimes they're not even looking for what you're looking for, but they just happen to be in the same area. Like you're keeping an eye on them, like when they put it out, like, is he gonna go after it? Am I gonna go after it first? I better be the first one grabbing that. I don't want you grabbing that first. It's that mentality, like me first, that selfish mentality, especially when it comes to when it comes to collecting. But two little stories before we round out this episode. So last year, you all know, and the listeners at home, I am a Funko Pop collector. And last year at Box Lunch in Chandler Fashion Square Mall, they had this Earth Day exclusive Avatar Aang Pop that glows in the dark. I'm like, sweet, I can add that to the collection. I get there at like 9:30, and I finally walk into the mall at 10. I didn't know this. Apparently, there's a little side door around one of the restaurants on the outside of the mall that you can walk in and go into the mall early. Now, granted, they do open the malls early for like those like people want to like do power walks around the mall, whatnot. I get in there, and this is an hour before the mall is supposed to like officially open. There is already a line. Like for example, like here's box lunch. The line was already down near where the GameStop was. I'm not getting this thing, but mall officially opens, the store opens, like, okay, here's the post, and this is what made me a little mad. This is what makes me mad with like exclusives and like the collectors and the scalpers. Our Earth Day exclusive Spirit Aang will be available Thursday, May 6th at 11 a.m. Pops are first come, first serve, no holds. Appointed reservations cannot be used for pop releases. Limited to 3 per customer.
What?
I was pissed when I read that. Like, so I have no chance in hell of getting this stupid collectible. We're slowly moving through this line. By the time I get to the front, I can start seeing like, okay, I can see them on the counter behind the cashier. I finally get into the store like, okay, maybe I can get one. I hear one customer at the register like, oh sweet, I got the last one. What?
That burst of your bubble just...
Yeah, so I went home with zero pop in hand. Immediately went on eBay, found one for maybe $10 above what the price was. I didn't care. I got gypped, so I bought it. Now, I finally have it. It doesn't matter, but just that urchin of oh, I got the last one, you motherfucker. But my last story. I was personally super proud of this. It's like a whatever thing for most people, but I was super proud of this moment. This was October 2020.
Oh boy.
And this was the day that Xbox Series X's and PlayStation 5s would be available for pre-order. Only problem for me was I was in rehearsal that night. So, it was at 9 o'clock p.m. I think they officially dropped the pre-order. I was in rehearsal when they dropped. So, we finished the rehearsal. I run over to the family computer. I log on to Walmart, Target, GameStop, Sony.com, Best Buy. I'm seeing sold out, loading, sold out, loading, error, cart error, loading. I was on that computer for an hour and a half trying to get this stupid game console. I finally, Best Buy was my saving grace. I kept having to refresh that cart, adding the thing back into the cart, refreshing the cart. Oh, I get to input my payment. Cart error, put back in my payment. Just that little loading circle of death was just mocking me as I was trying to put in the order for this stupid game console. But when it finally says, thank you for your purchase, I felt like I had just completed a 500-meter marathon, man. I threw my hands up in the air.
You won the lottery.
That's what it felt like, man, because even now it's still a little hard to get these game consoles, but I put a little insurance into this. I screenshotted the email on my phone. I took a picture of the completion screen on the computer just in the case. I said, oh, you never made an order. Then what is this? What is this that says thank you for your purchase? Thankfully, that didn't happen. I was able to pick it up from that local Best Buy with no problem. But it's with game consoles, games, DVDs, toys, it seems like it's better. I mean, the thrill of the hunt, going into the store on launch day or street date of the toy, the DVD, the game, whatever you're getting. It's so more exciting, but it's so much more riskier. There is a decent sized chance that you may not get this. So I've started ordering stuff more online, whether it be the DVDs, Blu-rays, games, etc. Just so you have the security of it's gonna be shipped to you on this day, and then you'll get it, no problem. I mean, I still like going in and picking it up off the shelves. Yes, I got it, it's good, but it's still nice to have a physical thing, whether it be a toy, a Blu-ray, etc. But that can be a topic for another day, like DVDs, Blu-rays, video games, etc. But that's just my little 2 cents on the collecting with the consoles, the collectibles, etc.
Especially when it comes to your pop figures, because you love your collecting of Funko Pops, which I can say is a guilty trip for all of us. I think Funko Pops are just a wonderful product, and you don't collect them. I definitely enjoy them.
Oh, I got a handful.
Yeah, but even then, though, I think that just does generate the drawing the line of toy collecting. We all have our picks and favorites of what we like, what we don't like. And toy collecting in general has just become this huge modge podge of buy, sell, trade, collect. It's become pretty much the everyday Joe Schmo of our lives. And I think I couldn't trade it for anything else as an experience because it's so much fun being a collector. And just having something that represents the nostalgia of what was to what it is now. And kids today have such a beautiful variety of toys that even we kind of go giddy about.
Yeah.
But to wrap up this episode, toy collecting is just an absolute blast. And as long as there's enthusiastic people like us in the world, it will never die. It will keep getting better and better and will eventually just keep evolving. So that wraps up for today's episode of Petty Cash Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Danny, Joseph, and Charles. And as always, slow down, chew your food.